Good morning, everyone. Kelly Akers here, founder of the nonprofit organization called The Seed and Root of Zion, which is a nonprofit organization centered around narcissism awareness in our communities and in our home lives. I attend college at Maharishi International University, a college that teaches about higher states of consciousness. I have been on a soul's journey for more than 15 years. I have read the Bible from front to back. I have read every kind of apocryphal you can possibly think of, mythologies, and I have been studying higher states of consciousness for over 3 years. I started to attend Maharishi International University because something had happened to me a long time ago. And I had reached out to my church, my family, my community, trying to understand what had happened to me, and didn't get very far in finding any answers. So I had to find those answers for myself. And I started searching for God deeply 15 years ago, and for the truth of God and the truth of this world, very confused by this world. Suffering through this world and the confusion of this world literally brought me to the truth of God. And the only way that I can give this back out to the world is just to be my authentic, true self, and also just truly express it in the manners that I can. I have been dropping seeds of knowledge for probably about 10 years upon this subject. I also have not gotten very far with people listening nor understanding me, but I also have not gotten out of the community and the family in which I have been raised in. Recently, I have understood cycles in my life, and I have understood that cycles repeat themselves in your life a long time ago. A cycle that repeated itself in my life just so happened to happen again, and I understand going through it and being in it why I'm going through what I went through. A long time ago, when I was first coming out into the world and going out into middle school and high school, a shift had changed basically in the ways that I thought as I was becoming a young adult and the things that were happening out in the world. I did not understand for a very long time that one of the reasonings why I was attracted more to what people would say are darker people or drug addicts, partying people, so on and so forth, and didn't seem to get into the crowd that was going somewhere in life. When I was in middle school and high school, I ended up migrating with a crowd that didn't do well in life. They ended up on drugs and alcohol. A lot of them are not even any longer here with us today. They have passed away or they are in prison for their entire lives. Somehow I scaved out of this, even hanging out with this crowd. And I have a big heart for this crowd because this crowd was the only crowd that was kind and nice to me when coming out into my community, which is why I ended up becoming friends with this not healthy crowd of people. It's not a healthy crowd of people, although they were doing drugs, drinking, partying, were kind. They were nice. They were not mean or did not make fun of me for my clothing or what house I lived in, so on and so forth. Coming from poverty and toxicity in my life, I'm starting to see what happened back in high school and middle school that led me down these wrong paths. And it was simply that the people that are doing well in life are not very kind. And so when you're in high school and middle school and you're picking out your friends, you're going to pick the friends out that accept you. And unfortunately, I was accepted by the same people in which I was growing up in myself. So the same environment of people coming from toxic backgrounds all migrated together. And this migration did not help us to succeed in life. We ended up doing stupid things that brought us down and eventually killed many of us. I made it out alive. And the reasoning why I made it out alive was because I always have had this inner sense about me that I knew was there. This sixth sense, as people would call it. And I used that sixth sense. I also always had a strong belief in God. I went to an apostolic church when I was a child, and that apostolic church taught me a lot about God. And when I heard the message of the man that they called Jesus Christ, because I was in toxicity and because I was in such a bad environment as a kid, I really clung to the teachings of the man that they called Jesus Christ. And I clung to them teachings because they were everything that I wanted in my own life as a child. Love, acceptance, non-judgment, all of these things that Jesus represented and that I was being told in Sunday school were the things that I wanted as a child myself, but was not receiving. Coming out into a bigger school and going through that toxic childhood, being moved back and forth 6 months every 2 a year, I ended up back with my mom here in Norwalk, Ohio, where I got introduced to the community that I am in now. This time, coming back, though, I came back with an entire mind frame and set that I just now am starting to understand to be able to give to other people. So my main goal in my life is to get myself to a place where I can actively start telling people what happened to me that changed my entire life around. I was a heroin addict. And I have 8 years of sobriety underneath me. I came from toxicity and poverty, was beat every single day of my life, made fun of every single day of my life. My dad told me that I was never going to amount to anything every single day of my life. He was telling me I was going to be ugly, 500 pounds, very cruel man. And I love my dad, and I understand what happened to him in his own childhood that drove him to become such a miserable being. And it was his own childhood scars that he had never fixed, that he had brought out on us and in its own crazy way, because his childhood was so toxic. He really truly believed that he was doing something better, and he was. The truth is, from his childhood toxicity to what he raised us in was night and day different. He did do better than his own dad and mother did. And I have no hard feelings towards him. I love him, and it sorrows me very much, all of the family that I've had to block out, all of the circumstances in which I have had to say enough is enough. I never block people because my heart has turned cold against them. I block them because this cycle right now that I'm starting to understand. And the cycle is simply this. If you want to do something good in life, and if you have big dreams, goals, and aspirations, and you surround yourself by a bunch of people that do not believe in those dreams, goals, and aspirations, they tear you down, or they have not made it to a spot where they're comfortable in their own lives. If you are a person about ready to overachieve where their achievement level is, they're going to subconsciously start bringing you down. We live in a very conventional thinking world, and we have an age of enlightenment that is starting to happen across the board. We also have what I call God pouring out a spirit. And when God pours out a spirit, that is the main number one reasoning as to why you have noticed a lot of females going back to that witchier type way. And it's not a witchier type way, it's a natural way. And the reasoning why women are going back to their natural ways is because the naturalness of God is pouring out its spirit upon the earth right now, trying to wake us up. It's trying to say, hey, you guys are coming very, very close to a collapse, very, very close to not being balanced in universal laws. In fact, you're already not balanced in universal laws. And when you're not balanced in these universal laws, God pours out his spirit trying to rebalance what is happening on the earth. I'm back in the city that I ran away from so long ago, knowing that the city itself, I had gotten myself into a very toxic environment with the people that I believed was my friends and my support system. Not having a strong education, not having a family with any kind of background in education or any kind of background in financial stability. I really had to stab at the dark to get as far as I had in my life. I am no longer stabbing at the dark. I am led, and I am led by God and God's understandings. And I accidentally reached these understandings. In my college, right now, we just so happen to be talking about exactly what's happening in my life. I'm in a stage in my life where I have realized that my nervous system is completely frazzled. I'm fixing that nervous system through transcendental meditation. And transcendental meditation is scientifically proven to fix the nervous system and to connect you with what my college calls pure being. Quite frankly, and generically termed, pure being would be what most people would call God, and connecting with that pure energy of God. And it is most definitely 100% doable because I do it myself. About 10 years ago, I hit a stage in meditation where I stopped seeing darkness. And you have to understand that the reasoning why I've read the Bible from front to back, mythology, every religion, so on and so forth, is because I was also led through understandings after I had reached this stage of enlightenment. And you have to also understand that I did not understand that this was enlightenment. I didn't understand what was happening to me. I expected to be able to go out into my community, into my family, and maybe get some answers from those who were further down a Christian path or those who claim to be enlightened themselves. But I never got those answers, and I understand why I didn't get those answers. And it's because even though enlightenment is a possibility for all people, most people are not actually enlightened as they're teaching about being enlightened. And I'm not judging anybody, and I'm not out here to tear anybody down. My main goal and my main purpose is to try to get people to understand that we don't have to live like this. And this way that we're living is breaking our nervous systems completely down to the point where a person like I, who wants to go out in the world and wants to change the world freely and wants to give my information out freely, I'm unable to do so because as I'm going out and freely giving this information, I am being met with a society that is very judgmental, that is mocking and making fun, that is trying to hold me down because they realize that I really am enlightened, and they don't want to be outed out for not being enlightened themselves, not being to the area that they should be in for the position in society in which they are teaching and giving back out this kind of understanding. And we have a lot of this going on right now where people are like actors in their businesses instead of actually being educated in the own understandings of their businesses. And what ends up happening if you are a person who is not enlightened and then you go into a business of enlightenment type studies, eventually somebody who is enlightened is going to out you. They're going to know that, wait a second, you don't know what you claim to know. And they're going to call you out on that. And that ends up making a narcissistic breakdown. My college right now, two different things that they're talking about is the cycle of negativity that you have to get yourself out of. So I've been isolating for quite a long time. And I isolated 2 years ago for 4 years on a piece of property out in Perkins Township. And on that piece of property, my main focus was to try to plant every tree that had bared fruit, every berry bush, every herb, get chickens, tap my maple trees, learn everything about my medicinals, and that's exactly what I did. And the whole point and purpose of doing this to this house was to show people that if everybody was a little bit self-sufficient, that nobody would have to do without. In fact, all of this inflation at our grocery stores could not happen if everybody simply gardened. If we gardened just a little tiny bit, we could feed the masses. And not just a little tiny bit could feed the masses, but when you are gardening yourself, there is a special way to garden that literally makes your food medicinal property for you. At the time that I had learned this, I tried to bring this up to a doctor who was supposed to be making me better. And they didn't believe me. And they told me that my scientific evidence was wrong. And this is completely 100% scientifically proven and accurate. So when you are out on your own property and you are seeding your own property, if you put those seeds in your mouth for 10 minutes and really put a lot of saliva, your own saliva, into that seed has now gotten the complete DNA structure, basically, of everything wrong inside of your body. It has gotten all of the sickness, all of the disease, everything that is within your body that is not good is now diseased inside of the seed. As you stick the seed inside of the ground and that seed starts to grow, that seed has to combat the diseases that you just put inside of it by making antibodies. That seed makes them antibodies as the plant is growing up out of the ground. As that plant is growing up out of the ground, that plant is now saturated in the antibodies that your body needs for all of the immunity to be, and you no longer to become sick. So as you're eating your own produce, you are literally eating your own medicinal medicine and what you need to make you not sick anymore. And this is scientifically proven. And my own doctor did not know this information and told me that I was wrong when I tried to explain it to him. Now that I'm in my own college, going for my own doctorate, I am not wrong. That is scientifically proven. So the mere fact that we have doctors out here that do not understand this kind of information, quite frankly, should frighten people. Because we have people not understanding how to fix the root cause of anything, just putting Band-Aids on stuff. And if you can't tell by now, putting a Band-Aid on something isn't working. All of this stuff that we're not slowing down and stopping and trying to understand the fullness of has got us in the situation that we are in right now. The cycle of negativity, in which my college speaks of, talks about basically an enlightened person going into a conventional way of thinking atmosphere. So I was just involved in a support group of referrals that was supposed to help me in the small business that I have, which is Kelly's Painting and Cleaning Services. My painting company is very successful, thank you God. I did not need a lot of referrals from this support group, thank God. During this time period that I was a part of the support group, I was reminded, quite frankly, of what it was like to be in high school again. Before coming in to this support group, this referral group, and before understanding everything that I understand at this moment, I had just came from a very toxic environment of losing that home, that self-sufficient home in which I was trying to build. Remind you, as I'm trying to build this home, I'm also trying to heal the family of my significant other's side, because the enlightenment had hit me before I had went out to this piece of property, this piece of land to build the self-sufficiency on. And I was not yet in college for what I'm in college for yet. I didn't understand what had happened to me. I just knew that I meditated until I literally seen light. And not just seen light. When I close my eyes, that light makes a lot of prism colors and silhouettes of a lot of different things. I have seen, with my eyes closed, every single one of, I shouldn't say every single one, that's not an accurate description. I have seen a lot of the Hindu gods and goddesses. I have seen all 12 of the disciples of Jesus. I have seen Jesus and Mary Magdalene and the emanating heart. I have seen and always see a little silhouette of a white man on my left-hand side that I call the spirit of truth. And that spirit will come out and it will show me many things as well, too. And all of these things in which I'm talking to you right now might sound very eccentric, but they are not. They are spoken of in your Bible and across every mythology out there. And what I am giving you is exactly what Jesus Christ gave to his followers. Jesus talks about us having eyes to see and ears to hear. Well, that higher state of consciousness is what he's talking about to give you those eyes to see and them ears to hear. If you are at a regular 3D state of consciousness, a third dimensional thought process, a conventional thought process, you are in what I call the zoom in. And the zoom in basically says that my life and my feelings dictate everything around me. I never think outside of my own box. I never zoom out and see life as a whole. I am only zoomed in on my one life and my family's life, and that's all that matters. And we're going this way, and that's my focus and my goal plans. Me, mine. In a post-conventional way of thinking, an enlightened state, you don't think of me and mine anymore. You think of everything as a whole. And you also start thinking that even if me, mine was just to do what everybody else does, that the outside world is still going to be as cruel. It's still going to be as ruthless. It's still going to be as judgmental. It's still going to be all the bad in which I went out into the world, sending my children out in the world. And all of a sudden, this zoom out makes you really want to do something different. You don't just want to do something different for your own life. You want to do something different for the world to be changed so that those underneath you are coming up to a more enlightened world. What happens when you have a bunch of people faking enlightenment, though? A bunch of people that are in the conventional way of thinking that have thought the whole witchcraft thing is cool and the medicinal medicine stuff is cool and tinkering around on bowls, yep, it's cool. All the sound frequencies, but they never do the inner work to actually get to the higher stages of consciousness. Well, then you have an actor. You have a person that is also misleading the masses in the ways that every religion has misled the masses. So an enlightened person will zoom out enough that they know that the reasoning why we are stuck in the situations that we are stuck in is because we have a massive surge of men teaching something that they don't understand. This is not, and once again, I do not judge the churches, a pastor, a father. I love them all. I see in a post-conventional way of thinking. So my heart goes out to these people because they are stuck in these cycles of negativity that I'm actively getting myself out of because I understand the higher states of consciousness and how this all works. These people are still stuck in fear. These people are scared to lose the followers that they have in their church. They're afraid to let the people, the hierarchical church setting, the ones above them, they're afraid to let them down. They're afraid to lose their homes. They're afraid to lose their cars. They're afraid to lose their position in society. They're afraid not to be worshiped. They're afraid not to be loved. They're afraid not to be accepted. Well, those are exactly the same things that I'm afraid of too. But I refuse at this point in time with the post-conventional way of thinking and understanding the cycles of negativity to allow myself to be stuck anymore in that cycle. If you are trying to do better in life and you are trying to do better things in life and you are trying to do things different in a way that doesn't just help your family, but helps all families, you are going to have to be a very strong person, because we live in such a narcissistic society. The hierarchical system has made that narcissism so prevalent out in this world that we are all trying to one-up one another constantly all the time. And when you are at a post-conventional way of thinking, you literally can feel, as an empath does, and I've always had this ability. This empath ability has been there since day one. I was born with it. But you can feel everybody. You know what they're hiding behind that mask. You know the misery. You know the pain that they go through. You know the negativity that they're in. You also know the bitterness and why they became bitter. And the bitterness has come from being stuck, from literally having to work 90 hours a week just to survive, to keep this home, to keep this trailer, to keep this car. I have to work 90 hours a week, and I can't get past that part in my life because I haven't understood higher states of consciousness. I haven't connected with Source to be able to understand at a zoomed out view. I understand the hurt and pain that everybody else is in. I walk into a room feeling the negativity. I walk into a room seeing the depression. I walk in seeing the misery. So you go in believing you could possibly make a change. Maybe if I sit here quietly for a while, I'll be noticed that I am in a college of higher states of consciousness. Maybe if I put certain things on my Facebook, I can show these people that I truly understand when I'm trying to give freely to other people. Maybe if this doesn't end up happening back, you go out with all this love and light. You go out with all of this joy and happiness, and it literally is being stolen from you. And this is literally happening to many empaths isolating behind closed doors right now. And one of the main reasons why I'm starting the Seed of Zion, this nonprofit, Narcissism Awareness, because we have people with good hearts who have went through these cycles that I, by the grace of God, have gotten the information and understanding of and able to slide out of and go on with my life, whereas other people are not able to do that. They're not able to slide out of the negativity because they don't understand why they were treated like that in the first place. All they know is that they went in with every inch of kindness, every inch of love. They supported, they bought the other people's things, they were volunteering, and they're getting treated like crap in return at every single angle that they're going at. And these people, these empaths without a higher state of consciousness and a broken nervous system going out into this world, their nervous system just completely fries on them. And it fries on them not for any other reason than they didn't have a higher state of consciousness. They didn't understand that the reasoning why these people are treating you like this is because they're jealous. or because they're afraid that you might do better than them, or because they just have never been taught any other different way of society. They have literally been stuck in that high school setting since the time that they got out of high school, and that setting has never changed. It's always been that high school conventional way of thinking that they're still wrapped up in, concerned about the same things that they were concerned about in high school. I understand these things. So removing myself out, yes, does it hurt? Absolutely. Nobody does not want to be accepted. But I also understand that I'm connected with something that is bigger than what most people can see. And what I'm doing with my life and what I am doing with my own healing is wanting to freely give that back out to the world. And the only way that I can make this make sense to other people is by using Jesus Christ's message. And that message was simply, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And conventional thinkers do not. They don't know what to do. They don't know what they're doing. They're stabbing in the dark. They are not connected to the light, and the light is not showing them where they're supposed to be going. This takes me back to the light. So right now in my college, I am starting to understand that there are people that don't understand this light. This light is spoken about literally across the board in every mythology and every elite statue. So any philosophers, any person that basically has gotten to a certain intelligence in this world speaks about this light. Maharishi, who is the founder of my college, and I'm going to whip this in here real fast. Before I started to attend my college, when my light turned on, it was an accident. But I started to see things at that post-conventional rate. I started to see a zoomed out version of the world. And so I started to get these messages basically that told me to start kind of thinking like God. If you were God and this world was yours, how would you make it to where everybody on the world was in a heaven on earth? How would you make it to where children coming up would not go through the life that you lived and went through, Kelly? If this was you, how would you do this to where money was not an issue? Where all of the teachings that Jesus teaches, because all of them are good teachings, non-judgment, seek wisdom and knowledge, love thy neighbor. How would you do this? How would you make a heaven on earth? So I come up with this big, huge plan that was coincidentally intertwined with synchronicities that were happening inside of my life at the time. And the best way that I can describe this is I met a guy named John from Nigeria, and I'm talking to John, and one of the things that got me really upset about how impoverished the children are in South Africa, and North Africa, how impoverished these children are and how sick they are and how basically, they don't have anybody there to even help. I'm starting to see that I'm very lucky living in the United States because I have some kind of safety that these people in Nigeria do not have. Civil war is happening 24/7. They have a government that is definitely not working correctly, and that government is being attacked by the civilians because they don't want a democracy. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on there. Rebellions, so on and so forth. So I'm talking to John, and I'm hitting these stages of enlightenment. I don't understand that I'm hitting these stages of enlightenment. I'm literally just trying to heal myself in the drug addiction issue I have. And why did I have the American dream? And yet I was still miserable. And at the time period, I thought it was because I was sick. And it was because I was sick. But I'm at the stage of my life where I have I'm not happy, all this materials, and I'm not happy. I'm miserable. I'm literally miserable. Catch myself hanging out out with homeless people. No, this is honest to God's truth. Hanging out with homeless people because they're happier than I am, trying to figure out why this homeless guy is happier. So I'm hitting these different stages of consciousness. I'm thinking of the world through zoomed out thinking. I am trying to fix the mistakes in the world, basically, just for fun, just for healing purposes. No, at this time, no big anything's happening. Not like it is nowadays. Talking to John, realizing about South Africa, and I had heard at the time period that Akon, the rapper singer, was supposed to go down to North Africa, I think Zimbabwe, don't quote me on that, but he was supposed to make this completely technological city, this smart city, this city that ran off of solar panels, so on and so forth. Well, obviously, I already am cooking up this same kind of idea in my head, trying to heal myself and, how would you make heaven on earth, da-da-da-da-da. I'm talking to John, and I just asked John, hey, John, I'm hearing about Akon making the city in Africa. He said he's sitting on a mill and wanted to do something good for his own people. So this, have you seen it? Have you seen, is there buses picking up people to go and work, in this city? Yada, yada, yada. And John texts back from Nigeria, and he says, yeah. He says, actually, there's a bus that comes around and does pick up people. And there is this city being built. The city stopped being built, and I don't know why Akon stopped building it, but he did. But at the same exact time period that I'm talking to John about Akon in this city, and I seen this Akon city thing, I'm literally texting John in Nigeria, and I'm telling him, man, I really, really think that God wants me to move out of the United States. I'm really getting a lot of messages that make me believe that the United States is not a safe place to be right now. And of course, John's like, you don't want to be in South Africa, Kelly. You don't want to be in Africa. He's in Nigeria, it's not South Africa. You don't want to be down here. It's better where you're at, so on and so forth. And I'm like, I don't know, John, I strongly feel that God is telling me that I need to move out of the United States. And exactly at the same time that I am saying this to John, my significant other texts me, and he texts me this. I know this is weird and out of the blue. He said, but I've been listening to Akon all day long. I haven't heard Akon in like 5-6 years. Why am I on an Akon kick? Remind you, he was at work. He had no idea I was texting John in Nigeria. He had no idea that I was talking to John in Nigeria about Akon in this city. I'm thinking maybe this city is the city that I should be going to, this new technological city. Maybe I should keep an eye on it. And mind you, it's not being built anymore, but that was my thought process at the time. And because Nate had texted that directly at the same time that I was saying that to John, I knew it was Africa. It was so solid in my mind that it was Africa, it was unreal. So I tell John what happens, and I start moving forward with my zoomed out thinking of heaven on earth. And I start looking at different properties in Africa, South Africa, start realizing, because I'm like 28, 29 at the time, so I start realizing that Africa's very big. And that there's a lot to Africa. In fact, America can fit in Africa like 5 times. It's that gigantic and that big. And I did not understand this at the time. So I start seeing a significant amount of resorts, of African safari resorts, where rich people basically went to South Africa and had tried to start a resort. And it fell through, and all of the animals are still there, and the water sources, and the electric, and all the acreage, and it's just sitting there. And then I start seeing that there's multiple of these, like there's a lot. And then I start seeing that these are pretty cheap on top of this too. A whole resort in Africa It's like a $500,000 thing. And I'm, thinking in my head, man, that's kind of doable. And then I get this influx of orphanages. And I don't know where they came from or how they found me. I never went looking for them. Just all of a sudden, I get an influx of friend requests on Facebook of different orphanages all across the world, not just in Africa, in Pakistan, and Bangladesh, and everywhere you can possibly think of. I start looking up and start understanding that these orphans, there's millions, like 800 million orphans. This mind boggles me. How is there this many orphans? Didn't we, and I grew up in the generation here in America where you've seen those telemarketers getting all the funds and donations for Africa and all these children that were in these poor settings. And in fact, I remember, quite frankly, all of this happening with these donations and them supposing to be helping these orphans. Now, here I have an influx of orphanages on my Facebook, and yet I don't see any American dollar that I could say went to any of these orphanages anywhere, not in Africa, not in anywhere. And so I start asking questions. Where's the greenhouses? Where's the chickens? Where's the pig pen? Where is the trees that bear fruit? Where is the berry bushes? Where all of the money that we gave to those 1-800 telemarketers didn't go to jack shit. Because if I was a part of a nonprofit organization and I seen something like this happening with all of these children and all this donation money, the very first thing that I would do, I would think anybody would do in a situation like this, is start growing food. But yet I see nothing like this in Africa. No gardens, no chickens, no pigs, no fruit trees, no medicinal properties whatsoever, no stocked ponds. We have technology and understanding of agriculture at this point in time so to a divine science that it doesn't make sense where all of this donated American money has went. And this pisses me off, to be quite frank. And when this starts to piss me off, and I realize that these orphans are going through exactly the kind of childhood I went through, and the reasoning why they believe they want to be in America is because they believe that it's different here. But what they would find out is that it's not different here at all, because almost the same exact childhood that the African had was very close related to the same childhood that I had. The only difference being is that I got myself out. And the only difference being of how I got myself out is I stopped asking man to give me answer questions that man could not answer. And I started to ask God for those questions. And I think that this is how my light turned on. My light turned on because I started to realize that something sleight of hands was happening. There was a gigantic gap in between the wealthy and the poverty. I'm also at the time starting to realize and starting to see that everything that Jesus Christ himself taught, the churches are actively doing the exact opposite of. And what do I mean by this? So Jesus was very, very, very strict about judging people. He told you that if you judged, that you were going to be judged. And I will admit right now that I have been judging the elites for the last 10 years. When my light first turned on, I was angry because I really truly believed that these people could just tell us the truth. But the truth of the matter is you cannot. And I'm starting right now to understand this myself. And I'm starting to also understand that my judgment over the elites was completely unwarranted. I don't know. I do know. I know exactly what the elites have went through trying to give their information out to their family, community, or friends. And it has not been pretty. So all of these different super wealthy people, like Elon Musk is a great example, who has hit these higher states of consciousness and understand the world at a different level than most people do, I'm sure he tried very, very hard to go out and tell his community. And what he figured out was the same thing that I figured out. Narcissism is literally crippling the masses. If it is that you reach a person and they know that you're telling the truth and they know that you have something, they're going to be jealous of you and try to hold you down. They're going to mock, make fun of you. Make sure that you do not rise and you do not go to the top. I have a bigger heart than most. And I think that this is why God has given me the position in which God has given me. And I want to also say, I know who I am and I know who I'm going to be. And I've had known and been in known of it for quite some time. My whole heart wants to give out to the masses, my community, my family, and my friends, what I have been given, what my family has seen happening to me, and what my college is giving me in knowledge of understanding and what happened to me. So I'm basically asking, now that I'm outside of the cycle of negativity, and I've gotten myself outside of that cycle of negativity, for anybody left that I've blocked or not blocked, to tell the truth about what they've seen in my progression since my soul journey has started, because it's progressed quite quickly. And not has it progressed quite quickly, but literally the only thing that has been holding me back, and the lesson that I have learned recently, is those negative environments that I refuse to get myself out of. And the reasoning why I refuse to get myself out of these negative environments is because I truly believe that I'm going to say the right thing, and it's going to click inside of them too, that something is massively wrong out here. Not just that something is massively wrong out here, but that we are all sick and medicated, and this isn't life. That if we have to be on such medications just to live, just to be able to function out in society, there's an issue, because a normal, healthy body and somebody who's living their best life is not going to have to take mental medications to be able to coexist in that life. So the reasoning why I have to block and disconnect myself from those that I love and my community in which I want to serve is because the higher state of consciousness level that I have reached is so different than what everybody else understands that I'm attacked over it. And as I'm being attacked over it, and I'm also watching the negativity, I'm watching people be negative to one another. I'm watching all of the hypocrisy. I'm watching them do weird individual things. And as I take myself out of the toxicity and I stand up in the righteousness of this is wrong, I have been taking myself out of that cycle for as long as I can possibly think of. I am finally to the point where I'm by myself now. And the person that is within my environment is also trying to heal too, in the same manner and ways that he's watched me heal. And he has. I watched a person that shouldn't have made it. Myself, I should not have made it. I shouldn't have made it. Period. What I have learned, what God has given me is why I'm making it. And then I watched and gave that same learning and education to my significant other, who is a narcissist, and we are going through the narcissist empath relationship and healing it. Whereas most people can't heal it, we're physically healing it, and we're healing it with this understanding of these higher states of consciousness and God that happened to me so long ago. So taking myself out of all of that negativity and building a foundation of positivity is an absolute must. And you have to do this too. And every empath that's isolated right now, that's what has happened to them. They have broken their nervous systems, not understanding the toxic environments in which they have to be in, which their conventional thinking makes them believe that if they don't stay in this toxic environment, that they are going to lose their homes, houses, so on and so forth. In Jesus's teachings and Jesus's parables, he tells you to seek the kingdom of God first. And once you seek the kingdom of God, all else will fall into place. He tells you that you basically become wealthy. He also lets you know, though, that the wealth is going to take the majority of them. So that's a different topic that we will get into later on. The light that is spoken of in my college that people are having such a difficult time understanding happens through a physical want to understand the truth of God. And that is how I got it. So I'm starting to see that some of the people in my college are having a very hard time also understanding this light. When my light turned on, it was because I was desperate. I needed to understand God, and I needed to understand what was happening and what was wrong in this world. That is exactly what the Bible itself talks about as well, too. Jesus tells you that that the suffering of this world will bring you to the truth of God. He also tells you that if thy eye be single, that thy body will be full of light. This light is quite literal. He goes on to tell you that if you close your eyes and it's darkness inside when you close your eyes, that's not a good thing. You can tell a person is enlightened by this one simple thing. Tell them to close their eyes and tell them to tell you what they see. If they see darkness, then the light is not on. Enlightenment quite literally means to be in light, enlightenment. It means that you are in light. So when I close my eyes, I don't see darkness anymore. I see light. Prism light that shows me many things. In my college, they call it a transcending. And what I understand this transcending to be is what Jesus Christ calls the spilling of the Spirit. Or I seen the heavens open and a dove descend upon me. I've seen these things myself too. So with my eyes closed, I physically see prism light emanating. And this prism light that emanates flows into my body, sometimes in a DNA strand, sometimes it feels like an oil that's literally being poured upon me and inside of me. And it completely fixes my nervous system. So recently, with my last encounter of toxic cycles that I had to get myself out of, I was going in and out, basically, of this nervous system healing. And I had not quite fully gotten myself to a full nervous system heal. And so I was going out into the world still with a half-healed nervous system. Healed enough to be positive, to be kind, to be loving, to ignore when others were purposely trying to harm, hurt, so on and so forth. But going out and that happening with me trying to help my significant other at home through his progressions of the higher states of consciousness, and going out into the community with conventional thinkers out into the community, and then also hitting, and this is what kind of broke the whole situation. I was so excited because I was very scared coming back to my hometown because of the troubles and issues that I had gotten into when I had ran the first time around. Plus, there are a lot of things in this town that I just don't associate anymore with or want to be around. So it was not easy for me to come back. I was literally pushed back into Norwalk. I was pushed back into Norwalk because I had bought that house out in the country, but just like every other toxic cycle I had to exit myself out of, family, community, so on and so forth, the significant other family that we had bought this house from, extremely toxic, extremely using us, extremely taking advantage of us. I had to move. So I moved and got broke, my nervous system, in that whole fall, basically, of why did that happen? You know, and the honest to God's reason why it happened was because they really didn't want to sell the house. They wanted us to come in with our background in construction and fix the house, but they never intended for us to actually own the house. So it was a sleight of hand illusion, as most things are out in the world today, where they were selling this house to us and really wasn't selling it to us, really just wanted us to fix it so they had a fixed second home. I go through all of the court, all of the, and go through all the toxicity and all the narcissism there. Not one time did I ever get to actually tell my story to judges or to anything. Lawyers, even my own lawyer I was trying to buy would not let me speak. Literally, narcissism is so, prevalently bad nowadays. It's unreal. Like, people cannot conversate with one another. I'm trying to tell my lawyer my story, and he just doesn't have the time to sit and listen, you know. And this happened 10, 15 different lawyers to the point where I just gave up. I literally, the whole Jesus thing, give them your cloak too, came to me, and you can have my cloak too. And I did. I gave him everything. And I left. Here's your house back. Now it sits and it rots. When I was there, all I wanted to do was heal my family. I wanted to heal my own family, and I wanted to heal my significant other's family. I'm starting to have back-to-back children. I want my children to grow up in a healthy family, on a healthy piece of property, with the things that I have learned that my Christian family called me witchcrafty over. I want to teach my children what I've learned. And this fall that happened, this toxicity, happened because I didn't stand up for myself. And at the time period, I wasn't healed enough to understand that God was going to take care of me. I had faith in it as everything was falling, and God did. God took care of me just exactly the way he said, and just as he's going to this time around too. But it was still scary for me because my nervous system was not healed. So I'm going back out into the world after I have 5 children, after losing my home, after going through trauma after trauma after trauma before actually trying to buy this home and redo this home, this condemned home. And it was a condemned home, by the way. Literally all this trauma, I just went through trauma and had to go remodel an entirely different home, restart an entirely different business, and I'm still going out with all this love and all this light and all this belief that things are going to be okay. And so going out and into my community again and getting hit left and right the way that I got hit, especially with the same field as me. So that really, it shakes you. The toxicity is so everywhere, it's unreal. But I'm not going to isolate myself because other people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing out in this world. Sooner or later, the people that are wearing them fake masks, it's going to fall through. And I'm going to be in the background, still with that big heart, picking up even those people that are falling through. Because that's really what happens in these higher states of consciousness. And what Jesus Christ himself was teaching is that as you're connecting with this light, this, what most people would call God, it's changing you. You're becoming it, and it's becoming you. And your heart is getting bigger as you go. And as your heart gets bigger, you start understanding at that zoomed out level in which I just spoke. And as you start understanding at this zoomed out level, you understand they really don't know what they do. They really don't know what they do. I'm right now healing the rest of that nervous system. I'm right now, through my college, understanding the cycles of negativity that I have kept myself stuck in up until this point right here, and will never do it again. I will have boundaries like you will not believe again. I am just now understanding my positioning and where it's heading to at this moment in my journey. I am just now understanding that I myself, even though I claim to not judge the elites and am probably in the same predicament as the elites. How many times did these elites come out and try to tell people the truth and nobody wanted to hear it and everybody laughed and made fun? Or how many times did they come out and try to be kind and nice and everybody thought, oh God, they might be smarter than me. Oh God, and that really does something to somebody. So I'm learning that my judgment in the elites is unwarranted. It's unwarranted because they couldn't just have given you this information. They couldn't have just told you the truth because you wouldn't have believed it, period, blank. I'm also starting to understand the cycles of toxicity and negativity, that if you yourself are going to be a good person and believe that, being a good person is the way to go, but yet you are in a situation where you are seeing people talk behind one another's backs, you are seeing the whole high school mean girl thing going on. You got to be the one that stands up and says, this is wrong. I'm just now starting to understand that my light is so post conventional to most people's conventional thinking that even the people in my own college do not understand nor have reached this level of seeing this light and understanding this light and understanding that this light is basically God intertwining itself inside of you. It's healing your nervous system so that you can go out while making your heart bigger so that you look at people exactly the same way that Jesus Christ looked at people. When Jesus Christ was hanging on that cross, he looked out at the people putting him on the cross and asked God to forgive them because they didn't know what they were doing. Quite literally, that is what that is. It's that post-conventional way of thinking to the world being a conventional way of thinking. We really don't know what we do. And I'm starting to understand that when you just go out there with your true authenticity, and when you just go out there with the truth itself, that all else is going to fall where it's supposed to fall. So I'm starting a nonprofit. I'm doing this painting business. I'm finishing out my college. And then the big plan of Project Zion is going to be in South Africa. And I'm going in it as I claimed I was going to. And I know that I'm going to get there because of what I know and what I understand. And I'm hoping and I am praying that I'm able to give this knowledge back out to the world freely. Because right now, I'm paying for this understanding. What happened to me so long ago, I'm now paying for the information. And it's not just paying for the information, because it truly is refining and helping me understand what happened, and also giving me the bridge and gap to help other people who are out here with completely fried nervous systems, isolating from a completely narcissistic world. And this narcissistic world that people don't understand that they're in. I'm praying that I can give you guys the light in which was given to me freely. And this is how I got it. I asked the sky for the truth. I went into prayer and meditation. And with every inch of my heart, my mind, my body, and my soul, I was bawling, I was crying, I was fed up with not understanding the cruelty. Didn't understand why people were the way that people were. I didn't understand how I could shoot rainbows out my asshole and somebody could be mean to me, be unkind to me. I understand now. The reason why people are mean and they're unkind is because we live in narcissism. We live in a narcissistic world where we are told that one person is above another while having a church on every corner that teaches you Jesus's teachings, which says that nobody should be in one another. We're teaching in churches this teaching from a man they call Jesus Christ, but yet not actively actually doing any of the teachings inside of the church setting. So when Jesus told you that there was to be no master, he quite frankly meant that the master was not above the slave and the slave not above the master. They were equal. When he told you that there was neither male, female, Jew, Greek, that means that there's no difference between the Catholic, the Presbyterian, the Lutheran, the non-denominational. And I'm going to give out a warning. This warning, quite frankly, scared the shit out of me, and it should you. Because in the Bible, it talks about, for many will say, well, didn't we cast and rebuke, and didn't we pray, and didn't we do mighty things in your name? And the Lord will look, and he will say, depart from me, you makers of lawlessness, for I did not know you. Our law is a curse. Everything that you have been taught is an illusion. It is definitely notable at this day and age that it is an illusion just by the fact that I just told you about the hierarchical system and how Jesus directly did not teach a hierarchical system. He directly taught against a hierarchical system. Well, how, after 3,000 years of this man being in the scene, do we not even understand the fundamentals of this man's teachings? It is because our world keeps you in a conventional way of thinking. They keep you in this conventional, zoomed in, selfish, narcissistic way of thinking because a narcissist does not get any kind of reward and feeling. They're constantly trying to kick off them endorphins. They're constantly, through any means necessary, trying to find the feel good. In a post-conventional way of thinking, and when your light is on, the one that Jesus Christ talks about, the one that if your eye is single and you see darkness, that's not good. That light that Jesus speaks of is the light of God that heals all of that, lifts the veil, and allows you to see. And in my college, it is being taught about. And Maharishi, God bless his heart, and I have the same exact plan. And this was not coincidental. When I started to attend this college, I started to attend it just off of synchronicities and where God was leading me in my life. I kept telling people that I was going to create heaven on earth. I was going to South Africa. I had a big plan. I believed this plan had came from God, because it did, and that I was going to enact this plan in South Africa to help orphans, women, so on and so forth. And now here in America, because a lot of people, and I agree that I should start here first. It should be here first. A lot of people disagree with me going to a different country and starting this in a different country. So I am going to start with this nonprofit, Seed of Zion, Narcissism Awareness, to try to bridge that gap in between that conventional and post-conventional way of thinking. Because we have a bunch of people that claim to have a post-conventional way of thinking, and they are going out with that conventional way of thinking, and it is just a mask, and is doing exactly what Jesus told you not to do and warned you not to do. Do not make the outside of the cup clean without cleaning the inside of the cup. The end is that person falls too. And all I can see is little curly-haired children with glasses, and I don't want that for anybody. We don't have to live like this. We literally live in a world with so much abundance that we have the elites with 60 homes and people down at the bottom with none, but yet there's 10 vacant per every one homeless. And we don't understand this because we're all stuck in that conventional way of thinking. Our lights are not on. So my main intent is to help us turn that light on. It accidentally happened for me. It was freely given to me, and it was the best thing that has ever happened in my life. And I promise you that you can sit and you can mock and you can make fun of, and I'm still going to continue to go on. And in fact, I want to say it like this because I think that at this point in time, that the only way that I can save my family, in which I've had to block, and my community, in which I'm going to leave behind, is by coming out and just simply saying the truth and then showing that truth by the actions in which I live. So, from that toxic family background, I'm here right now. And even though I took a hard hit out in my community that hurt me very, very bad, and I did not understand and was very confusing, because it would be confusing to anybody to be treated poorly and unkindly, especially for something you're paying for. I was paying for this support group and literally raising my hand and ha, ignore her. I was paying my dues and ha, I'm hearing people talk and lie behind my back that my dues aren't paid. Stupid, silly stuff, guys. High school stuff that should not be happening past high school. Shouldn't even be happening in high school. If we don't want our children to bully, then we have got to stop bullying each other. And if we can't stop, we're in for, we have to stop. We have to get better, guys. We have to get better. So this is Kelly Akers. Once again, just trying to put stuff out there, trying to lead with my story that one day I will lead much better than I have today. I hope to be on a TEDx talk giving this story out, because we don't have to live like this. And if you thought the way that I did, and you climbed up these higher states of consciousness, and you got that zoom out, which my college is teaching me as I'm teaching you, you would understand that. And I want to get you to that level. And I want to freely get you to that level. I don't want you to have to pay. So, once again, Kelly Akers, just trying to heal, trying to piece together the pieces that have happened the last couple years of my life, and trying to give some help and healing out there. Have a blessed one.